Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Cryptonized and another security token episode. You know this is the direction that I want to be going, my company's going, because this is the future. We screwed it up. Gensler is on the warpath. He's coming after crypto. And if you're not labeled a utility token, you're pretty much toast, especially if you live in the US. All right, so with that said, before we jump into things, I want to introduce our guest, Edwin Mata from Bricken. And just introduce yourself and we'll jump in.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Mark. You're from the United States. I'm located right now in Barcelona, but I'm Mexican based, so I've been in the States a lot, a lot. But basically, yeah, thanks for having me. Background quickly, used to be a M&A lawyer, used to doing restructuring here in Europe based. And one thing led to another. 2016, ended up working for a tech company, a startup dealing with smart contracts. Well, not at that time. They started entering. And basically that led me to understand that you can digitize and embed things on the chain. And that was like how I ended up doing Bricken in 2020, just because I started loving the fact that literally you can digitize anything and then just create it in this blockchain and all the magic that we're probably going to be talking about during this half an hour.
Acquiring assets such as real estate, art, or private stocks requires large capital or high net worth. Bricken democratized the world of investable assets, simultaneously opening up new ways of raising funds. Through blockchain technology, Bricken's platform enables fractionalized ownership of security tokens, representing underlying assets.
And what is the magic that Bricken does? Just give us a brief rundown of it. What do you guys do?
So our focus is not so distant from the tokenization factor itself. Kind of like you can digitize any kind of RWA, we call it real world asset, but also digital. What we're trying to accomplish here is more focusing on the life cycle of the digital asset. So you have the creating factor. Well, you can create a token on chain. Then you have the selling, distributing, and then you have the management of the digital asset. So what we're trying to accomplish is we consider ourselves a token suite, and we give you a solution to cover the whole scope of the digital asset. So from its creation to its selling to its management of the digital asset, the treasuries that you have raised. So we want to cover that scope, and we call ourselves a token suite.
For those people that haven't experienced your suite, give us an example of what someone has tokenized on your suite, through the entire life cycle.
Yeah. So basically, for example, we just launched last week a Panama project, and what they're doing is they created the version, well, not the version, they digitized the profit sharing contract. So whoever invested in there, they can generate revenue when they raised all the building that they're going to create, and everything is already it's starting to getting built and all that. So they created a revenue sharing content because they're going to do a big flip. Uh, that got digitized. So the digital asset here that got created was of the contract. So whoever invests in them, they invest on the future revenue coming from that flip. And then obviously we created the minting. So we created the smart contract for the creation of the token related to that specific contract. Then through our platform, you can even create your own website, distributing channels and whatnot. So you have the creation of the digital asset, then you have how you're gonna sell it or distribute to all these token holders. So here we have KYCs and whatnot. And then right now they're raising, but they're already entering our management tool because funds are coming in, it's on an escrow account, they have it on hold, they have all the cap table or investment management where they see who's jumping in, what is the position, how is it moving. And basically that's kind of the scope. So it's not just the digitization, it's also now it's like I have something to sell, I need sellers, buyers, sorry. And now I have a digital asset that I need to manage, but I'm blockchain not geek, and it's everything is complicated on Etherscan. It's not, but we have to give them that solution where it's easy for them to understand what they just created, which is a pure digital asset.
Okay, so if I'm understanding what you guys do correctly, in the example of this Panama project, a bunch of the developers wanted to raise money to create this building in Panama or build this building. And as part of that, hey, if you become an investor in this through these security tokens, When it sells, because they're trying to flip it, you will get a profit share of that. And what you do is you kind of manage that entire process. The question I had when I was listening is, do you also list it on some sort of an exchange? Or what if I invest in this project in Panama and then, Edwin, you come out with a better project in Barcelona and I say, I want to sell my security tokens in Panama and I want to buy one in Barcelona. Do you handle that, or do you say, hey, you're responsible for getting on an exchange?
So, two factors here is we act as a DApp, we just provide that technology. So everybody who tokenizes, obviously we help and aid and advisory, but that's not really what we want to go for. So the tech itself has to be obviously any user should be able to use it. That's kind of like the vision. And the advisory role, we don't go in. We have other providers because we're developing a marketplace where if they want legal advice because it's Panama and an issuance and the SEC and everything, they can go with that. So we pass the pain of the advisory. And now with that second part is, as of now, we're talking with different exchanges because if a token gets minted on our platform and sold through our means, there's a possibility they could go for these kind of exchanges, which as of now, there's probably 6 or 7 that are completely regulated. The States has the 2 biggest ones. Singapore has the third one. So there's not that market per se yet of sufficient liquidity or secondary markets. Through our means, since we're not there yet, and maybe the market as well, we at least provide them with a P2P, which is rudimentary because we're used to order and call books and whatnot. But at least we're trying to solve the pain that is happening because the market itself doesn't have the tools yet. I mean, using
Yeah.
securitize or the zero, the fee to enter, that's already for like an IPO kind of grade. So that's a huge barrier of entry versus what you enter in the security token world in this token offerings is because you should be able to do it yourself under your own means and gather your own market and exploit it. So I believe that the security token market is not mature yet. We're all getting there, but that's how we do it, right, Mark? We just keep building.
Well, that's what we're doing here today. And part of the reason I'm very bullish on this eventually, we're still a year or two out, is the regulation. As much as I hate regulation, as much as I don't trust our government at all regulating anything, I think they go in with good intentions, but then the bureaucrats take over, they water down everything, and good luck fighting them. I mean, you got to have an army of lawyers, and you got to wait it out, and they're going to drain you of your funds. So what made me stop and think, though, was, okay, Edwin, this project that kicked off in Panama, I don't know the laws and regulations in Panama. How do you know that they're a legit project there?
Yeah. So obviously, before somebody can use our tech, we call it adapt. It's super decentralized. The vision is everybody can keep using it without us entering because it's just tech. As of now, because we're kickstarting and the market is not yet mature, we do a KYB, thorough due diligence, have to see who's behind it, whereas the UBOs, what is the structuring and everything. So we might still miss, of course. The next thing is, since we're dealing with securities, they have to have our tokens have the metadata, so they have a contract embedded that you can see, and then you can understand who's behind it, the white paper, if a country is banned or anything. So we're putting a lot of pressure into the compliance just because the compliance asks you to have that level, right? But can you miss? Of course. I mean, you don't need tech to miss. I can shoot a security now in Barcelona and sell it to whole American people and completely miss it because the SEC will come back to me. So technology at least can make it more easier just because everything is just doable.
Yeah, I mean, technology makes it easier to create one. It also makes it easier to spot a fraud and a fake
Yeah,
just by doing your research. I mean, this would happen in the stock market. The pink sheets have this type of thing all day long. Real estate developers scam people. Not a lot of them, but it still happens. So you do have to do your own due diligence. I know Edwin does to a point, but they're just providing the tech. They can't be expected to be the police too. So that would be the only thing I would look at. In the States here, we have Reg A, Reg D, Reg S type of legal structures, but those can be manipulated. I could go sell a security token for the Golden Gate Bridge, and How do you know I'm a scam? I mean, that's a very popular destination, so it probably wouldn't work. But you get my
Yeah.
drift. You still have to do your due diligence, but I would argue it's much safer than some of the tokens, the utility tokens that are
Yeah.
out there. One question I have is why isn't it tied to, like here in the United States we have title, like the security token could be tied to title of this particular project, whether it's the land or a lien on the property itself. Is there anything like that in place?
Not in this case. You can do it. You can take the ownership, but in other states that is not United States, it's very. You guys come from common law. Everything is super simple. That's why you're great at business. But in other parts, they just like all this public administration times 11 because public registry of
Yeah.
real estate is just ridiculous. So in those, the barrier is so high because you will have to go with all the token holders to the registry to tell them now you have this piece of land. The system over this registry is still in a folder. Like here in Barcelona, they digitize it, but people still look at folders. So that's just the level. So it's not doable in all business life. For example, but with equity, that's doable because there's not a public registry of equity. So that you can digitize. There's other sites where registration is not a pain. So when there's not, you can literally go for what you're saying, like true ownership in those other ones that are still limited because of whatever. You can still tokenize the ownership of the land, of the owning, of the bond, of the loan. So you go and you do it where you can.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I think if I were in a foreign country, giving some tokens to an attorney that can make sure that things are on the up and up. A local attorney in Panama, for example. I'm not saying this project, and I don't want to pick on this
No, no,
project.
please
I'm just
no.
talking.
It's
We know what happened. We know what happened in 2022 with
of
crypto.
course.
We have some kid at FTX, scam people out of billions. So you can't put it past anyone really. But it would be nice to build some more protection into the system without bogging it down. I'm the last person that wants bureaucracy. But let me get to my next point about your technology. Is it possible to put in smart contracts so you have voting? You have, let's say that building in Panama was already built, and it was giving off. They decided to rent it out, not sell it, and it was giving off rental income. Could they then automatically distribute that rental income to the smart token holders using your technology to create that smart token?
Yeah, so that's why we also focusing a lot on the management of things. Because what we're seeing sometimes in the market was they were focusing on the creating of the token and then wishing them well. And it's like you might know your tech, you might know your sector, but the real estate person probably doesn't even have a computer, so to speak, right? So they come from a different sector and you want to tell them that, oh, you can do it through here. So yes, we're focusing on functionalities that just solves those kind of pains. So we have a distributor of dividends, earnings, or interest, whatever we want to call it, because of the contract that got digitized and tokenized. And we have voting polls because obviously shareholders, if there is an equity token offering, they will have to meet. In loans, maybe it's not necessarily, but maybe you want to have something that you want to get them involved to get more traction. So we kind of build this from a utility section, like kind of like understanding why it boomed, and then trying to embed those things in the security because security used to be kind of not obsolete, but kind of like very static, kind of like even the wording is a security. It's like, oh, what is that? People don't even understand that sometimes it's a security. They ask, oh, so it's not hacked, so hackable, and it's like that's not the security we are talking about. But that just shows a reflection as to the market being ready or not. So we still have a long ways, of course.
Okay. And before we kind of wrap things up, is there anything that we didn't talk about in as terms of what you guys do that it's important for people to know?
I mean, no, obviously you can always go on the website www.bricken2case.com and check what we're trying to do. We're always more than open. So I'm going to tell a funny story instead of talking about the project, how the name came to be.
We love
Yeah,
stories.
how the name came to be
Yeah.
because we have two Ks. And we're like, why you
Yeah.
don't have 1K? Okay, first of all, when you're doing this and you have this idea and you're like, oh, I got the name, then probably people will change it later. But it was because it was brick. and we always thought like that was the building block of the real world. So it's a brick, and then token was the building block of blockchain. So when we mixed, they were like Bricken, but we just took case just because we wanted to make sure that people understand that one without the other, they don't exist. So especially in tokenization. Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't have
No,
three Ks, especially for
we
here
wouldn't
in
be
the
having this
United States.
conversation. That would be probably the whole different sector. So I would, yeah, that was a good
Right.
miss though.
I'm glad you explained the name because I was going to ask you. I thought perhaps it was a Spanish city, but I don't remember a lot of Ks in my many stops in Spain.
No,
So,
that's what it is.
all right. And with that, Edwin, how do people get a hold of you if they have any questions?
Yes, thank you. So obviously in Twitter, EDWMATA, that's my Twitter. I'm always open there. LinkedIn, my name, Edwin Mata. And basically through those means, whoever wants to learn more about what we do or just have a casual talk about tokenization, yeah, please do. I mean, we'd love to explain. Thank you very much for this invitation, Mark. Really cool. I mean, I know you're in the sector, tokenization, so that's what we do, right? Us builders need to combine and spread more education because we're talking about a trillion euro market. So
Yes. Well,
it's
it's definitely the future. It's just when.
yeah,
There's no question. Everything's easier. Everything is actually more transparent.
definitely.
You know, there's less. You're less likely to be defrauded, and the fact that you could trade these things around once it's more movable, then more people will participate, and there's ample wealth building opportunities with that. Anyway, I'll get off my pedestal here and wrap this up. Edwin, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being on the show.
If you've had the problems with banks and inflation and anything having to do with the US dollar or any currency around the world for that matter, you know how important crypto can be, but it's got to be the right crypto. So our friends at Tetragard have decided to create what's probably generally considered an ETF with three tokens, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and PaxG. They've wrapped it all up with a rewards token that's built in, and it's easy to buy. It's really quick at the website here. Now, the best part is you're getting rewards while owning this, and therefore you're making money just by holding onto it. How could you go wrong with this? Why would you buy Bitcoin, PaxG, or Ethereum separately? We can get them all wrapped together at the lowest prices with a rewards token built in. I can't think of a reason why. Can you?